This week in IPC, we will be time travelling back to the time of Florence Nightingale, which is almost 200 years ago. Who was Florence Nightingale? Florence Nightingale was born in 1820, exactly 200 years ago. She was named Florence after Florence in Italy, where she was born. She died in 1910. She is still famous today. She became a nurse and helped soldiers who were hurt in the war. Florence Nightingale is known as the Lady of the Lamp. That's her nickname, the Lady of the Lamp, because she carried a lamp with her when she checked on her patients in the night. Why is Florence Nightingale remembered? So now we're going to learn about why Florence Nightingale is so special and why we're still learning about her 200 years later. She changed the way that hospitals looked after their patients. She changed the way that people thought about nurses. She changed the way people thought about women. How did Florence Nightingale help? She changed the way hospitals looked after their patients. Before Florence Nightingale, hospitals were overcrowded. That means there were too many people and there were not enough beds. Hospitals were dirty and had rats, and there weren't enough doctors to help the patients. So do you think that patients could get better in these dirty hospitals? No, not always. Florence made hospitals cleaner. She gave patients good food. And she saved many lives. Florence Nightingale showed that trained nurses and clean hospitals could help sick people get better. Because of this, she is called the founder of modern nursing, and modern means new. So she is the founder, or the person who started new and modern nursing. She changed the way that people thought about nurses. In the past, most people thought that only male or boy doctors could look after patients, and that nurses should only do tidying and cleaning up. Now, if we think of our nurse in school, Nurse Stephanie, she doesn't just tidy and clean up, she helps us. In the past, nurses were not trained. Florence Nightingale met Queen Victoria, who was the Queen of England at the time, and she told her what was wrong with the army hospitals. She opened a nursing school called the Nightingale Training School for Nurses, so that nurses could become trained so they could help patients. Florence Nightingale wrote a book called Notes for Nursing. She also changed the way that people thought about women. In the past, most rich women like Florence got married and looked after their homes instead of working. Florence decided that she wanted to work. She showed that women could choose to work and do things outside the home, and that's what many women do now. In 1907, Florence Nightingale was awarded the Order of the Merit by King Edward VII. She was the first ever woman to receive this honour, so she was very special and she changed how people thought about women as well as hospitals. So now we're going to sort the statements into the table. So I'm going to read and I want you to say if you think this statement or this sentence is about hospitals before Florence Nightingale or hospitals after Florence Nightingale. And remember that hospitals were much better after Florence Nightingale. So, there were rats in the hospital. Was that before or after? It was before. The patients were dirty. Was that before or after Florence Nightingale? The patients were dirty before. There were not enough doctors. Before. Patients had fresh food. Was that before or after Florence Nightingale? It was after. Nurses were allowed to look after patients. After. The hospitals were cleaner. Was that before or after Florence Nightingale? The hospitals were cleaner after she made them better. The army started training doctors. That one is after Florence Nightingale. The patients had moldy food, and moldy food is like old food that's not fresh. It was before. And lastly, patients, the people who are sick in the hospital, had clean clothes. That one is after Florence. Well done. So you can see that hospitals were much better after Florence Nightingale was working in them. What was Florence Nightingale like? She was determined and resilient. When she arrived at the war in Crimea, the doctors wanted nothing to do with her, but Florence continued to work. So the doctors were not very helpful, the male doctors, but Florence kept on working. She was kind. She wrote letters home for the injured men who could not write. She was a good leader. She led a team of 38 nurses in the Crimean War. So she was a good leader. She was in charge. So now I want you to think about any other words, wow words or adjectives you could use to describe Florence Nightingale. Can you tell them to an adult? So some words that we discussed there were founder. She was the founder of modern nursing, which means the person who starts something. She was also called Lady with the Lamp. A lamp is an old kind of light. Patients in the hospital. A patient is someone who is unwell or injured and needs to be looked after. And the soldiers. She looked after soldiers. A soldier is someone who serves in the army. So that's all about Florence Nightingale. Now you're ready to complete the task.